Hello, can you hear me? Hello, hello. Oh, yeah. I want to speak to you today about gigantic loans for bad credit, 100% approval. And what I want to do, I want to compare and contrast Upstart, Avant, and OneMain Financial. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of the Awesome Sweetie Kiwi Show. How are you today? I hope you're all doing fantastic. I'm doing marvelous. If you were to ask me, if you are doing as splendid as I am, go grab a cup of coffee or tea or vodka and let's roll. In today's conversation, I want to quickly do a comparative analysis of three important players when we speak about massive loan providers for bad credit. And those are Avant, OneMain Financial, and Upstart. Of course, we're speaking about 100% approval, okay? And before we get into the actual review here, it's important to understand that when we speak about massive loans, gigantic loans for bad credit, we're speaking about two things. Number one, massive means that you can borrow all the way to $100,000. And if you have bad credit, it simply means that you have a FICO score at the moment that is below 579. In other words, it is between 300 and 579. And if you have fair credit, there will be anything between 580 to 669. It's important to understand that there are five important elements that make up your credit score. You have your payment history, you have the amounts owed. Payment history accounts for 35%, amounts owed 30%, length of credit history 15%, new credit 10%, and credit mix 10%. It's quintessential to know those elements because you don't want to have bad credit all your life, right? Bad credit should be a transitional phase. It should be something temporary. So once you know that, you can, as we are, talking about getting gigantic loans for bad credit, you are concurrently working on improving your credit score. So that's important. And that's why we love some of the players that I'm reviewing in today's conversation. For example, Upstart and OneMain Financial, they do have a good customer service that helps you improve your credit score down the line. In other words, they educate you. They put tools at your disposal. It's very important to understand that if you're looking to apply for a bad credit loan, you need to check your score. You need to also make sure that you can repay the loan. You want to learn how to compare and contrast bad credit personal loans. If there is a pre-qualification, you want to take advantage of that. This is very important. In some cases, depending upon your situation, guess what? You can bring in a co-signer or a co-borrower, whatever it is, whatever helps you get the loan that you need, just do it. And don't forget to gather your financial documents. Very important. Speaking of choosing a bad credit loan company, there are some criteria that you need to pay attention to, including eligibility requirements, right? You want to pay attention to what the lender is asking you to provide in terms of paperwork. That will actually speed up the process. That will increase your odds of being approved. Also, you want to think about interest rates and fees. Don't listen to anybody who tells you that it's simply because you have bad credit, you are doomed for a high APR. No, we live in a universe. I mean, we live in an economy where you have a large array of lenders, and every lender is positioned in a specific niche. You might get a good APR for a bad FICO in terms of personal loan. So pay attention to interest rates and fees, especially nowadays where we have a plethora of online lenders. You have all those alternative lenders. Sometimes their APRs are high, sometimes they're low. So it's all about doing your research, doing your homework, and applying strategically. You also want to pay attention to the repayment terms. Everything from the loan maturity, how many months you have to repay the loan over. Also, you want to pay attention to the interest rate, but also things like whether or not you can, whether you have to incur some fees in terms of prepayment. So those are important elements. And also think about the type of lender you want to apply at. Are you willing to apply at a bank, at a credit union, at an online lender, right? In our experience, based on our research, we've seen that if you have poor credit, if you have anything below 579, you want to first go to a credit union, and then you go to a bank, and then an online lender. Because people think that online lenders are automatically cheap. They're not. They're not. So you want to talk to your banker first. You want to talk to your credit union first if you have a credit union, and then speak to your banker. See what kind of offers they have, and then compare those offers with what's available on the internet. And I want to show you right now, this is a nice recap table that we love that shows actually the personal loan interest rates by credit score. When you have excellent credit score, good, fair, or bad credit score. That's just what it is. You can see the delta, the variance here in terms of the APR range and the score range. And I also want you to check out our short evaluation in terms of our video. It tells you about our process when it comes to evaluate, categorize, and list our personal loans on this show. Check this out. All right, I quickly want to talk to you about Upstart. And when you think about Upstart, I want you to think about three things. I want you to think about a platform that is great for people who have very poor credit to fair credit. That's number one. Number two, you have the speed. In other words, they are able to process your application really fast. And number three, we love the educational aspect of things. In other words, here is a platform, as I was telling you earlier, that's willing to work with you. In other words, they are not only helping you work on your credit history, they also help you improve it over time. Okay, so Upstart is really a good choice for a personal loan, a massive personal loan for borrowers with poor to fair credit, or for refinancing, or financing a car or other type of assets. You can't get a mortgage with them, though. No, you cannot get a mortgage with them. One thing I want to say here is that you can borrow through Upstart. You can borrow up to $50,000. And we have seen people who actually got qualified for $100,000. It depends on the solidity of your application, okay? And you have to repay that 50 grand over 3 to 5 years, over 3 or 5 years, okay? And one thing I also want to say is that the APR is a range from 8.27% to 35.99%. Okay, so this is something that you need to pay attention to. So what are the pros and cons here? Pros: the platform is great for borrowers with poor or fair credit. They do actually offer financial educational courses or boot camps. Right, this is pretty good. And it's the cons. It does not allow joint applications. And if you are a borrower in Iowa or West Virginia, you can't qualify. Now, they're still working on that. It's just, it has to deal with state banking regulations, and but they're still working on it. And very soon, if you happen to be in those two states, you might qualify for an Upstart personal loan. So just hang in there, all right? And you can use the loan for everything you want. You can use the loan to consolidate debt, pay off student loans. You can start or expand a business. You can pay for education. You can pay for medical expenses. You can make a large purchase. You can relocate, travel. It's totally up to you. Another thing I want to speak about, when we talk about massive loans for bad credit, 100% approval, and we talk about Upstart, let's address the issue of eligibility. So to qualify for an Upstart massive personal loan, you need to be a U.S. citizen or permanent resident. You need to be at least 18 years old in Alaska and Hawaii. Actually, it's Alaska and Nebraska. Their requirement is 19 years old, okay? And you need to have a full-time job offer starting in 6 months, a regular part-time job, or another source of income. So for Upstart, the real important thing is the source of income. They really don't care. As long as you have a legit source of income, they will take it. They will qualify you. And they want you to have a credit score of a 520 or higher, okay? and they want you to have a low debt to income ratio. They want you to have no bankruptcies, no current delinquencies. So if you have any derogatory items on your report, collections, you have charge-offs, repos, that will not work. No. And also, Upstart does not want to see more than 5 credit inquiries in the last 6 months, excluding student loans, auto loans, and mortgages. Okay, so basically, once you have all this, they will evaluate your credit history, your application information, your planned use of funds, and your ability to repay when approving you for a loan offer. Okay, and so again, you can borrow up to $50,000, in some cases up to $100,000 if you have the right application. And of course, once you apply, first of all, you are going to pre-qualify, right? So they will just do a soft credit check. But once you agree to proceed, once you agree to move forward with the loan application, then they will actually do a hard pull to know to sort of dig a little deeper into your credit history. Okay, and one thing I also want to say is that in terms of fees, they do have a few fees you need to be aware of. So they have an origination fee that oscillates between 1% and 6%. They have a late payment fee, which is the greater of 5% of monthly past due, or $15. They have an NSF, non-sufficient funds or return payment fee of $15. They don't have a check processing fee, so that's good. And they don't have a prepayment penalty. That's pretty good too. I'll be right back right after this. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, folks, to another session of the Awesome Study Kiwi Show. We are still having a conversation about gigantic loans for bad credit, 100% approval, and we are comparing and contrasting Upstart, Avant, and OneMain Financial. Let's now talk about OneMain Financial. OneMain Financial is a great player. So if you are interested in having online and traditional lending for poor credit, or online and traditional loans for poor credit, OneMain Financial is a great player. And we love the fact that they provide actually both secured and unsecured personal loans. And if you're looking for massive loans, they are a good candidate, even though their loan amounts range on average from $1,500 to $20,000. But we have seen cases of individuals who got approved for $75,000, in some cases $100,000. Again, it all depends on the solidity of your loan application. One thing you need to also understand is that when we talk about OneMain Financial, the APR range is 18 to 36%. You do have some fees though. You have origination fees, late payment fees, and NSF return payment fees, but those vary by state because banking is a state affair, and they don't have, OneMain Financial does not have check processing fees and prepayment penalties, no. So if you borrow, let's say $1,500 to $20,000 on average, again, that's the average. The outlier will be people who get 50 grand or 75 grand or 100 grand. But the average, if we take a normal distribution, like a bell curve, we have $15,000 to $20,000. And the loan terms, 2 to 5 years. The repayment schedule monthly. All right, this is important to remember. And one thing I also want to say is that with OneMain Financial, you're able to actually build credit as long as you make on-time payments, but also learn. They do have a strong educational, I would say, database of resources, and this is great for a lot of borrowers. And so OneMain Financial rather, it's a good for borrowers with bad or fair credit, borrowers with collateral, and borrowers who live in one of the 44 states where the firm operates. So they do have 6 states that they don't actually operate in. And Upstate, what am I saying? Upstate. Oh, Upstart. OneMain Financial. I've got it. OneMain Financial is bad for online-only customers, applicants with good to excellent credit, and those who need a large loan amounts. Now, again, like I said, if you need a large loan amount, you better have a strong loan application. So if you live in Alaska, Arkansas, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, or Vermont, you will not qualify for a OneMain Financial loan because they don't serve those states. Let's talk about the application process. To qualify for a personal loan with this lender, it's pretty straightforward. They want you to verify a few things. So they want you to verify your job, so income requirements, employment requirements, and your identity. Okay, so you need to have a valid government issued ID, such as a driver's license or passport, proof of residence, such as a driver's license, utility bill, or signed lease. They want you also to verify proof of income. So that will be tax returns for the last 3 years or pay stubs. Now, if you don't have let's say you don't have a steady paycheck. Let's say you just, you're doing odd jobs here and there. You can still prove to them that you have a sufficient income by showing them your bank statements. I just hope you have a bank statement, right? I mean, you have a bank. You can't just operate out of cash, right? You have to have a bank. So if you don't have a pay stub and you don't have you don't have anything else that shows that you have a steady job, you can still qualify. And what we love is that OneMain Financial, in some cases, if you want a gigantic loan for bad credit and they want to approve you, but they say, listen, we need you to have some skin in the game. In other words, we want you to pledge collateral. You can actually do that because they are open to that. And for them, it's very important that the collateral be of stellar quality. So collateral may include things like automobiles, trucks, motorcycles, boats, campers, and RVs, among others. Okay. And they also want you to maintain a certain level of a certain DTI, your debt to income ratio. Okay, and DTI is basically the way you calculate DTI. You just take your total debt divided by your total available loan. For example, let's say on your credit card you have 1,000 available credit, and you spend 600 out of the 1,000. So your DTI there is 60%. $600 divided by $1,000. Okay, so that's 60%. And it's important. DTI is very important. The lower, the better. Especially if you have bad credit, you want to try to maintain a very low DTI. And the cool thing is that once you are able to do that, OneMain Financial will by reporting your transactional history to the credit bureaus, they will help you over time improve your credit score. Just remember that OneMain Financial does not permit co-signers. They do not. Now let's review the third player in today's conversation. So we're talking quickly about Avant. So when you think about Avant, I want you to think about a platform that is great for borrowers with bad, fair, or average credit. Okay, in terms of if we want to get too technical, I think we can when we speak about fair credit, we can even go deeper and say fair can be either fair or average. Okay, so the minimum FICO score to qualify for an Avant loan is 580. 580. If you have a minimum of 580, you're good, and they can lend you up to $35,000. And in some cases, we've seen they have lent to some people up to $100,000. In some cases without collateral, in some cases with collateral. Again, it goes back to it all depends on the solidity of your loan application. Okay, and the APR, we're looking at 9.95% to 35.99%. You will receive your funds within 1 or 2 days on average, and like most online lenders, there are no prepayment penalties with Avant. Meaning what? Meaning that you can pay your loan early and save on interest. Okay, Avant, just to specify here, they are an online lender. Okay, and so Avant is great for borrowers with bad, fair to good credit. There is some flexibility in terms of repayment. That's really good. And it's the platform is bad for using loans for business purposes, for joint applications, and for borrowers in Iowa, Colorado, and West Virginia. The reason why you don't want to use Avant loans for business purposes is that, number one, the rate is extremely high. Number two, there are other funding sources that are cheaper. They're cheaper for a business. For example, collateralized loans, So asset-based business loans, anything from equipment financing to invoice factoring to working capital loans to invoice factoring, invoice financing. And so, yeah, 35% on a business loan, that's just too much. And on top of that, their limit of 35,000, in some cases 100,000, it may not be a lot, depending on what you need the money for. Okay. And if you want to qualify for an Avant personal loan, a gigantic personal loan from Avant for bad credit, you need to, you got to be at least 18 years old. You got to be a U.S. citizen with a valid social security number. You have to, you actually have to have, you have to show proof of employment or proof of financial stability. In other words, if you don't have a job at the moment, at least you want to provide your bank statements so that they can see that you have cash in the bank, right? And then they will evaluate your credit history. They will look at everything that you have provided, your application information. They'll pay attention to your planned use of funds and your ability to repay when approving you for a loan offer. So they just want to make sure that they're covering their ass too. Like, they're not just giving you the money and not seeing it afterwards. They want to make sure you are in a position to repay the loan they're about to grant you. Simple as that. So the time to get funds, I think 1 to 2 days. Yeah, based on our research. The credit check is pretty gradual. So you get a soft credit check to pre-qualify you for the loan. And once you are 100% sure that you want to proceed further, then they will just do a hard pull to make sure that they understand exactly who you are. Okay. And one thing you need to also understand here is that they do have a couple of fees that you need to be aware of. Things like origination fee. So you have they have an origination fee that oscillates between 0.95% to 4.75%. They do have a late payment fee, which amounts to $25. They have an NSF return payment fee of $15. They don't have a check processing fee or a prepayment penalty. So that's pretty good, because those can really add up. Loan terms 2 to 5 years. Repayment is on a monthly basis. And you just have to be ready. You just have to have all the info, all your information, and you should be fine. Make sure that you actually have your tax returns, your bank statements for the last 3 months. You want to have your tax returns for the last 3 years. You also want to have any other verifiable proof of income, for example, pay stubs from ADP or another payment processor, all that kind of stuff. So, folks, you've had it. We are basically nearly at the end of today's conversation. So I was able to give you the pros and cons and all the peculiarities of each player, right? So you've seen what Upstart is about, what OneMain Financial is about, and what Avant is about. Which one should you choose? Which one do you think you should choose? It all depends on your situation. It all depends on what matters to you. It depends on your situation in terms of how much you want to borrow, the cost you are willing to absorb. Because the best way to evaluate a massive loan for bad credit, 100% approval, is to pay attention to a few things. For example, things like APR, things like the repayment terms. Are you eligible for the loan that Upstart has, or OneMain Financial, or Avant? Okay, would you rather just apply with a credit union? And an important element to pay attention to also is that, do you currently have a relationship with a bank or credit union? Because sometimes you might be surprised, even if you have bad credit, you might be surprised that you would find an excellent loan with them at affordable rates. So pay attention to your eligibility requirement. So that's number one. Eligibility is number one. Number two, the interest rates and fees. Number three, we have the repayment terms. And number four, the type of lender. And once you have that, you want to go. Those are what I call the general criteria. Now let's pay attention to the specific criteria. So Upstart is great for people who have poor or fair credit. They do offer educational courses or boot camps on everything from improving your credit score to budgeting and personal finance. Then you have OneMain Financial, which is great for people with bad or fair credit, and borrowers with collateral, and borrowers who live in one of the 44 states that the firm serves. And then you have Avant, and Avant is great for borrowers with fair to better credit, and they do offer repayment flexibility. All right, folks, our choice today is Upstart. Our score 9.5 over 10, Avant 9 over 10, and OneMain Financial 8.5 over 10. We chose Upstart because they give you larger loan amounts. They do have a more nationwide coverage. They have a faster disbursement of funds, and it also have we love the fact that they do have educational courses, the ability to educate borrowers, to help them understand what bad credit is and what kind of adverse impact bad credit can have on their lives, on the lives of their family members in terms of getting a mortgage or going to school, student loans, all that kind of stuff. So having that ability to educate your customers is fantastic. So we congratulate Upstart on that, and they are our favorite pick in today's conversation. Thank you so much, folks, for listening. I really appreciate it. I'll speak to you another time, but until then, remember, stay marvelous.